Hello everyone, it's me, Juan Gamer54, back in a video. Today, we are back to reacting to game theory and tackling today's subject, Finding Frankie. For those who don't know what Finding Frankie is, here's the gist of it. You know how many other horror games where it's just focusing on focusing on darkness and all that, and you can't really do anything but just stay still and hoping that you pray you get through the next day? Well, in this one, it's basically parkour. Yeah, you're parkouring your way, basically. I know, a parkour horror game? How? Well, we're just gonna find out today. So, you know the gist of it. We're gonna sit back, relax, and, grab your snacks. It's time to enjoy. Here we go. Here we go.
I have found Frankie.
There we go.
After just one visit to this deadly trampoline park, it's come clear that this show wasn't made to make money or to entertain viewers as they watch people meet their gruesome ends. It was made with far more personal intent, and we fell for it hook, line, and sinker.
Really?
Hello, Internet.
I didn't think there would be lore on this one, but hey, it's a horror game.
Needs you to vote over that subscribe button so that we can get the grand prize of 20 million subscribers. And welcome to another week of Tom Plays Catch Up, because all the indie horror games release on Halloween, but we can only cover one thing a week. So here we are in December, still playing horror games from 2 months ago. Although
Dang.
I will say, I am very intrigued by today's subject. Today, we are talking about Finding Frankie. And the reason I've been so intrigued by this is because this isn't your typical mascot horror walking simulator. This is a parkour game with actual platforms.
This is actually very interesting, really, about parkour.
Trails, which is a breath of fresh air when you look at the humble beginnings of the genre. And
yeah.
No one hates feeling like Sonic the Hedgehog.
Around in the speed of sound. It's got places to go by. Sorry.
Where you return to the scene of the crime and are chased down by the souls of dead children. Instead, we're taking part in a game show where you must try and survive the many dangers that lurk around every corner.
Oh yeah, Chapter 4 of Poppy Playtime is coming out in January. Can't wait.
To Fall Guy style obstacles, and of course, a giant killer bunny that wants to murder you. We couldn't get rid of all the tropes now, could we? And
dang
I
it.
could totally explore how even without the saw blades, incinerators, and deadly slime, this parkour park was already too dangerous to exist. What I'm more interested in are the deep philosophical questions. Who are we? Why are we here? And who is running this murdery game show? On the surface, I wasn't even sure I would find an answer to these questions. It seems like Finding Frankie's devs kept the story simple in order to focus on the gameplay. But the more time I spent in this death park, the more I realized that the story the devs were telling was far more intricate than we could ever have imagined. A story of lies, deception, and betrayal. So put on your Frankie suits, theorists, because we gotta jump, slide, and swing our way through the lore of Finding Frankie. We assume the role of one of the lucky contestants.
I never really think Finding Frankie would have this much lore. I did think it had lore, but I don't think it had deeper lore. Just is that, hey, we are just obsessed with buying too many cereal. We found a tape. We got our chance to get $5 million, which, let's be honest, who wouldn't want it? Ching dala dala. And, we got another murderous rabbit, because why not? It's not like we're all getting tired by murderous rabbits right now. And, we just park our way to freedom. And for the cash, but, given the chance of a $5 million and, being alive, I think we do need to find an escape here. Or at least a different route of escape in case, the rabbit shows up again.
This game show after receiving our golden ticket, or in this case,
you see all those cereal boxes?
You'd think it'd be pretty obvious which cereal box had the tape in just based on the weight, but game show got a game show, I guess. Now, you and the other
maybe they overfilled the cereal boxes.
Palace, ready to race and survive whatever the game throws at you, hoping to win the $5 million cash prize. But after the other contestants are instantly killed by Frankie, we realize this might be harder than it looks on TV. Throughout your parkour challenges, you are constantly avoiding death at the hands of the show's mascots, Frankie and Henry Hotline, or, just falling to your death.
I'm disrespecting you! No.
Dang.
Eventually, though, we meet the guy running the show. He looks similar to Frankie, but slightly less murdery, though the constant
For now.
is a little unsettling. This is other Frankie, and he tells us that the show is going bankrupt, with this being the last season, spurring us on to keep playing the game. Like we have a choice. After even more deadly parkour, we finally go head-to-head with the real Frankie, only for all the platforms to disappear beneath us and for us to fall to our deaths.
No.
So we thought, in typical TV drama fashion, somehow we escaped our descent.
Our
into
death
the
was
incinerator and
very
go on to
exaggerated.
claim our well-earned prize money. But other Frankie has other plans.
You came along for a star, but stars don't just leave after a season, do they?
And that is where the game leaves us.
Leaving
Like I
us
said,
for a
it's
sequel.
pretty simple story that sets up future sequels in a way that makes sense. However, there are still plenty of questions left for theorists like us to try and solve. For starters, how and why did the largest trampoline park in the world become this deadly game that we find ourselves in?
Who knows?
If you're willing to pause your parkour shenanigans for just a moment and take
Pause?
a look around the
Never.
environment, we begin to find our answer. One of the TV screens tells us that
Oh, come on.
Frankie's originally started as a cereal company owned by two brothers who decided to sell the IP so that the franchise could expand and become the worldwide phenomenon it is today. I suppose that explains the whole cereal box aspect from the beginning of the game. Gotta build your mascot murder empire somehow. But before we get to that TV, there is a staff-only area, and in it, there's a newspaper clipping that tells us who took over the business to help make this
Stan
grand ambition
Ellie,
a
okay.
reality. A man named Stan Ellie. He decided to expand the brand by adding new mascots such as Henry Hotline and Deputy Duck. He also began building
So the
physical
Mickey,
locations
Goofy,
for
and
characters
Donald
to
the group.
appear in across the US, with the first one being in California, likely the very parkour park we're standing in. It seems like Frankie's Parkour Palace started out as a totally innocent business venture, but it wouldn't stay that way for long. At the end of the game,
No.
we get a flashback to our decrepit apartment, and we're actually able to move around. The
Really?
scene isn't very long, but if you're quick, you can find another newspaper clipping floating in the air. After doing some quick Photoshop magic to lower the exposure, you can read what the article says. Quote, police were called to investigate the newly opened Frankie's Parkour Palace after reports of a foul odor emanating from beneath the trampoline.
No.
Sure enough, when they went to investigate, they found an old animatronic with a child stuffed inside. No, wait, that's a different franchise. The police did find a dead body, although the identity has been kept a mystery. You can actually find where this happened in the trampoline section of the game, with police tape surrounding the hole in the floor and blood on the support beams. As you can imagine,
Okay.
this wasn't so good for business, and so Frankie's became abandoned. Although, according to one of the TVs in Frosted Peaks, in 2001, someone had a bright idea that very few characters in indie horror franchises seem to have. They said, you know what, let's lean in. Use the news in our favor and turn
What?
this death park into a death game. Way to take advantage of the SEO there, guys. So now we have a...
Okay, what? Nah, that is wild. And basically looking at... So you're mean to tell me that you look at your establishment, and your establishment has now been tied to murder, and you're saying, you know what? Let's lean into that. Bro, at least I will give Fazbear Entertainment and Poppy Playtime Co. I'll give Playtime Co. and Fazbear Entertainment a pass, because at least they're trying to lean into something positive. Fazbear Entertainment more lean to extent. It surprises me how they keep opening up, but like, at least they're not trying to lean in. Oh wait, maybe they kind of did with the whole Fazbear Frights thing, but you know what I mean. At least it took a little while before they get into that. That is
timeline
insane.
of events. Cereal company sells the IP, makes the parkour park, someone dies, and the franchise becomes a murder game show. Now, here we are, part of the 57th and final season of the show.
Dang.
And clearly, we're meant to be something special, because the game won't stop bringing it up.
No one has ever made it this far. Usually only mere seconds. If you're lucky, a minute or two.
You're the first contestant we've ever had who won. Hundreds of people last a few seconds. A few last a couple of minutes.
Although this
We're
isn't
like
just
that,
down to
accept
our
it.
sick parkour more skills. If you look in the surveillance office where we first met other Frankie, a whiteboard has written out the status of the game show contestants. Next to the contestant that's still alive, us, it says keep alive until the very end. And throughout the game, we encounter other Frankie doing exactly that, keeping us alive. When you're making your way through the water park, other Frankie stops you from going one way and lifts a shutter door for you to help your progress. When you encounter Frankie in the vents, other Frankie tells him, literally stopping him from killing us. And if you look hard enough, other Frankie can be seen hiding in
I didn't know about that.
various parts of the park, watching us, ready to step in and help if we need it. Now, you might think he's just looking out for the show. With us surviving, the numbers are going way up, and that could save the show from bankruptcy. But I actually think there's a little more to it than that. Before you make it to Frosted Peaks, you can see 2 screens with the live chat of the game show. Most of it contains people betting on how long you're going to last, or assuming the player is a bot because he's too good. But there's one comment that stood out to me. It says, Genshin Impact just released on Xbox.
Oh, come on.
Sorry, Frankie. No death traps for me today. I got myself a better offer. You could still have Santi, though.
Nah, that's insane. How are you selling El Santi? Alright. I think I skip a few margin. I think this is where they stop by, so let's just keep going, alright?
Back to the trampoline park and see how Santi's doing.
Santi, no!
At least we still have the chat message that I needed. It's the
Nah, that is wild. How are you saying, well, at least I got the lore still? Nah, that's insane. This beef is crazy. Okay, I'm pretty sure they don't really have beef for real. This is just the inside joke, but god dang. MatPat, get your boys in check. MatPat, get your boys in check.
Which, if you've been part of any live stream, you'll know immediately means something weird is going on. But more importantly, the message says, I know it's you. Where is my brother? Unlike all the other messages, this one is aimed directly at us, the player. Our identity is also brought up again at the end of the game when you return to the title screen. On it is now a sign that says, be back soon. Underneath that text, though, is a code. Specifically, this is known as a pigpen cipher. It's a type of substitution cipher that replaces letters with shapes based on grids like this. By decoding it, we can see that it says, I know who you are. With all this attention being put on our identity, we have to be more significant to this story than just a guy who lucked out and got the VHS. But then, who are we? That vague chat message asked us where their brother was, which immediately made me think back to the 2 brothers who started Frankie's. It's the only other mention of brothers so far in this game, so it feels like those 2 need to be connected, and therefore, who we are must also be connected to them. But outside of that, we don't really have a whole lot to go on outside of the fact that we live in a crummy apartment, and the flashback scene doesn't last long enough for us to really dig around and explore for more clues.
But then you decided
for some out-of-the-box thinking. Or should I say, out-of-the-game thinking. By breaking the boundaries of the game, we can explore much more of this apartment, revealing that there's actually a whole second room filled with monitors that are connected to security cameras from Frankie's Parkour Palace. On one of those monitors, we see the words, Welcome Back S, as well as a piece of paper numbering the seasons of Frankie's
It's crazy
show.
how you...
57th,
no, wait. Stop. I'm surprised, like, okay, so... basically from the Twitch streams, it's like, okay, we know that this whole thing is going live, or like it's live broadcast, right? Right. And we're at season 7, basically claiming as the final season. Right? Right. But what I want to know is, how are you guys still, going on? Like, you mean to tell me that they're able to cover up the whole death? You mean to tell me you covered up the whole, the first minute of the race where Frankie just comes out and eat 2 of our fellow contestants while we just make a swerve behind him? You mean, how? Like, again, with Fazbear Entertainment, at least at some exterior, there were some ordinary days, before the animatronics malfunction. But you mean it's, at least with Playtime Co. as well, like, everything looked so, fine and dandy before the whole joy of creation. But you mean to tell me that since the first season, literally people have been dying and everyone is oblivious? Where's the cops? Where's the law enforcement? This is just crazy.
circled. Finally, above those numbers are the words, everything changes. Which I'm sure it would if you were about to win $5 million. But
Cha-ching.
we've actually seen this phrase once before. During the Frosted Peaks section, before you start the initial climb, you can take these stairs off to the side and find what is labeled the CEO's office. In this room, we can find a set of documents for an apartment rental that also has those same words on it. Everything changes. We are the CEO of Frankie's. And the
What?
one we read about, the one who took over the company from the original founders, was Stan Ellie. Welcome back, S. Is this why he's being kept alive? Because he's the CEO of the company? I mean, not a great look to kill your own boss. Plus, what better way to get your ratings up while also making sure you don't lose any of the money? Your CEO competes, he wins the money, puts it back into the business, and the ratings go sky high. Everything changes because the business is going to win on all fronts. Although, why would he then need to have found the VHS tape? We see stacks of cereal boxes in his apartment all labeled as if he's actively looking for this thing. But if he was the CEO, he could just enter under false pretenses. These stacks
And look.
of cereal boxes in his apartment all...
Look at it. I can't seem to tell but it's a little blurry for me, but it looks like box 769. First of all, nice, but 700? You bought 769 boxes. My brother, I don't even want to ask, my brother in Christ, I don't even want to ask how much money you've been spending. That's insane. At least an average cereal box for me was mostly like $11.99, so $12. So explain yourself. How many trips to the stores have you gone? How many?
Labeled as if he's actively looking for this thing. But if he was the CEO, he could just enter under false pretenses. He is the boss. He can literally do whatever he wants. And also, why would he need to be monitoring everything from his home? There has to be something deeper going on here. And what that is becomes a little more clear when you check out the final item floating in the apartment. Another newspaper clipping. This time it's about how we, Stan Ellie, were accused of being involved in the murder of one of the original founders, Sean Sykes. And we were being accused by none other than Sean's brother, the other original founder, Michael. So that message about where's my brother? I think we found out who that came from and who that
Michael.
body that was discovered under the floorboards belongs to. Because of
Okay.
these accusations, the company looked to take on a different venture, like, say, becoming a death game. And Stan decided to resign as CEO. Stan, therefore, couldn't have rigged the game in his favor because he's no longer the guy in charge. He'd been shamed out of his position, accused of a horrific crime, and was left with nothing. That apartment contract from the CEO office was likely from his last day in position, finding a cheap, crummy apartment for him to move to after losing his job, because that's all he could afford. However, as we see from the apartment, he clearly had a plan. He set up monitors in his apartment connected to the CCTV of Frankie's, watching what was going on.
The internet
Why? To
might have
train.
gone crazy on that
We can
one.
see the number of other seasons on the monitors. He's been watching for a long time. If he wanted out of this life he was now in, he needed to win big. So he watched and learned. That's how he knew to run sideways and past Frankie at the very beginning where everyone else normally dies. He'd been planning his victory for a while. And now the show is in its last season, putting up their biggest prize ever, $5 million. This would be his last shot at winning big. He'd been preparing for this. So, as we see in the first cutscene of the game, he went out and bought hundreds of boxes of cereal to guarantee his place in the show. And on box
Do I even want to ask
769,
how many?
he finds the elusive.
Yeah, I knew he was gonna
VHS.
point it
From
out,
here,
but
everything.
I knew Tom was gonna point it out. 769. My goodness, how? Don't tell me you go into the store. Like, I want to know the interaction. I want to know what the cashier space was like. Can we get the cashier to do an interview? Can we at least ask the cashier what they think about this? Like, some random guy pulls up with 20 boxes. Like, 20 boxes of the same cereal. Like, my God. Because I'll be honest, I'll be like, you like the cereal so much, don't you? Yeah, dang.
It changes. creditors. No longer would he be the disgraced former CEO of a tainted franchise living in a crummy apartment. He'd go back to the scene of the crime and he'd walk away back on top once again. So I guess it's a little bit more like Poppy and FNAF than I thought. Except then I remembered something Henry Hotline said to us the second time we meet him.
We aren't going bankrupt, and this isn't our last game show. As soon as you're eliminated, 4 new cereal boxes will be sent out all around the world, sitting and waiting for
4?
its lucky contestant, just like you.
Henry says that they aren't going bankrupt. And given his head explodes right after this,
Dang.
almost as if he's said too much and he's therefore being got rid of, I'm kind of inclined to believe him, which means the entire pretense that this is the final season is a complete lie. But if that's the case, why do it? Was it just to boost ratings? I saw this kind of thing all the time when I was working back at places like Fox and Disney. If
What?
the show isn't getting the ratings, the network might choose to announce that this season will be its last, which can sometimes result in such a boost in the ratings that the network will then rethink their initial plans to cancel it. This happened recently with Yellowstone, which after announcing
Oh, come on!
the 5th season would be its last, had 16.4 million people watching that final episode. A massive increase compared to the 8.8 million at the start of the season. And since then, Paramount have appeared to soften their stance on whether they will renew for a 6th season. Frankie could be doing the same thing with their viewers, declaring bankruptcy to get more eyeballs on the show. But if the show isn't going bankrupt, it feels like a bit of an unnecessary gamble just for a few more views, especially if the news got out. Like, you know, having one of your mascots spill the beans mid-show. Unless, of course, it was never about trying to get lots of people's attention. It was about getting the attention of just one. Someone who was desperate for a big payday that could then be trapped here and forced to suffer for what they did. That's right, loyal theorists. This final season of Frankie's Death Game was all a ruse to capture and torture our player character,
Dang.
Stan Ellie. The writing is quite literally on the wall, with messages like, "We'll never let you go," and "no more bad behavior." Bad behavior is likely referring to the murder that Stan supposedly committed. And don't forget about the "I know who you are" Pigpen cipher left by Frankie. Whoever is behind this death game, they know who Stan is and what he did. By declaring themselves to be going bankrupt and offering a massive cash prize, this would be Stan's last chance to win. He thought he could come in, win the prize money, and bail, but that was never an option. Once he won, he was forced to stay here and keep competing. Now, I'm gonna stick my neck out a bit here, because while the game has purposefully kept who the new management of Frankie's is, based on everything we've talked about, there's only one person who would not only know everything about Stan and the murder, but would also have the motivation for this kind of elaborate revenge plot. Michael Sykes.
Dang.
The co-founder of Frankie's and the brother of the late Sean Sykes. The newspaper article never mentions Stan actually being convicted of murder, just that he was accused and then resigned. Yes, he lost everything, forced to live in a decrepit apartment with barely anything to his name. But for Michael, that isn't justice. That isn't enough. Stan needed to feel pain like he did. And so, the point of declaring bankruptcy wasn't to boost ratings, it was to capture Stan, making him think he was coming of his own volition to play in a game he thought he trained for to win some much needed cash. But now, Michael has Stan exactly where he wants him, able to accept his revenge on him for what he did to his brother. He sent those chat messages of "Where is my brother?" to tease Stan, to remind Stan of what he did, and then he refuses to let Stan go after he wins at the end of the game, forced to endure this cycle of torture again and again, season
till the next
season. So
till the next season happens.
We found
the next
Frankie,
game.
his secret hiding spots, his identity, and his motivation. But did you find the 5 Freddies I hid throughout this episode? Yeah, they're definitely there. Go back and see if you can spot them. And let me know down in the
you
comments
guys
what
can
you
do
think
it,
they
not
are.
me.
Regardless, I'm very excited to see what cruel revenge plots Michael Sykes will cook up for the next season. And I'm intrigued to see how Stan Ellie is going to try and survive, and maybe whether he'll walk away with the thing he wants most, a fresh start. In the meantime, remember, that's just a theory.
Alright, so that's going to be the video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. And hey, look at that. A pop-up. We actually did a reaction video on that one. So I guess I'll leave it in the link. I'll leave the link to the description box below so you guys can react to that one. Again, Don't Fret is actually a great game, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. But yeah, guys. Honestly, people are gonna say, but so you mean to tell me that Michael is all perfectly fine about, other people dying just for one person? Hey, man, a brother's love is just that, man. Brothers' loves are just like that. I'm gonna be honest. It's not great. I'm not really rocking with Michael's decision here. But hey, man, we're just gonna see it the next season because the next game, because they kind of already opened up the possibility of a new game. And let's be honest, I feel like Don't Fret is most likely gonna get another game. But anyways, that's gonna be a video game. That's gonna be the end of the video, guys. Make sure you like the video so I know you guys enjoy. Comment down below what you guys think. You think Game Theory got it down? Or you think not? Honestly, I kind of feel like this could be a good way to continue off the game. A sort of revenge plot. But I'm pretty sure being accused, right? I don't think Stan probably could. I feel like he could, but I feel like, I don't know, maybe in the sequel we'll figure out that he was framed by someone. Who knows? There's much more to the story than that, I feel like. But anyways, be sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell. We're having lots of more video ideas coming down the line before the end of the year. This has been Juan Gamer 54, signing off.